right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're having a wonderful day. It is May 20th, 2025, and we got an interesting day. Oh, hello. And our day is going to revolve around the frustration rally. So that is the title of the video when we move on over. But long story short, after all of the downgrade and everything else going on, a lot of people were shocked by yesterday's performance. And guess what? It was retail. And everyone's saying it was the record amount of retail buying. And now everyone's debating on whether or not you should be panicking. Now you add that to the Donald Trump and the tax bill. We're going to hear about that today, as well as a bunch of Fed speakers. So they may not say much. It's not going to be that much data, but like we talked about last night, there is going to be a lot of stop and go, and it might get uncomfortable. So be ready for that. Also, be ready for the biotechs. We're going to hear a lot out of there over the next couple of days. And remember, buybacks and a lot of things are in full-fledged. So despite some of the narratives, it's the reason why we keep seeing activity. There is still some things beneath the surface, so we'll see where this Tuesday takes us. It should be exciting, but Chattadonia, I hope you guys are locked and loaded and ready to go. But good morning, baby. Are you ready? What up, Enrico? What up, Forest, Sin City, C-Rod, Professor Loud, Laker, Jay? Good morning, baby. What up, El Chapato? What up, Boast? How you doing, Mark Caballero, Noah Ion, Dirty Bird, Ben Shore? Yay! Oh, good morning, baby. What up, Brown Todd Crows, Matthew Orman, Mr. Max V, Jamal, Thoughts and Emotion, Mr. Fahad, Isaiah Kabibi. What up, 4-Lane? What up, IPAC? Jojo Rabbit, Yonito, Me Nacho, Tim Whitman ready to go, baby. Devlin ready to go. Matt Fritz, Alex Enzo, Michael Winning, Sean Kelly, Zach, and Jax, baby. Good morning. Oh, yeah, Trump is live right now. Liberace, Stock Sasquatch, El Coyote, Point Blake, Senor Dio, Feed Me, Blowing Dough, El Coyote, Pie Guy, and El Coyote, baby. Good morning. So, yeah, this is Donald Trump right now. He's live.
Fantastically, he's a great
He's outside the Capitol. I'll play this for a second before we do it. Amen.
It's the biggest bill ever passed, and we got to get it done. Tremendous tax cuts for people, tremendous incentives, tremendous regulation cuts, all these regulations that are so horrible. And now you find out what happened, because Biden, look, it's a very sad thing what happened, but we're going to start looking into this whole thing with who signed this legislation. Who signed legislation opening our border? I don't think he knew. I said there's nobody that would want an open border. Nobody. And now I find out that it wasn't him. He auto-penned it. Who was operating the auto-pen? This is a very serious thing. We had a president that didn't sign anything. He auto-penned almost everything. He opened the borders of the United States of America. And I kept saying, who would do such a thing? Allowing criminals to pour in from all over the world, not just South America, all over the world. They came in from Africa, they came in from Asia, they came from the Congo. The prisons in the Congo in Africa, these are rough people. The prisons from the Congo are empty. You know where they are? They're in this country. Who would sign this? Nobody would sign it. No sane person would sign it. You know who signed it? Radical left lunatics that were running our country, and the auto-pen signed it. And they didn't want him, and they were disappointed in getting him because they wanted Bernie Sanders. And then after about 2 weeks, they said, wait a minute, this is a gift. He'll do anything. We're going to use the auto-pen. And they used the auto-pen and everything. He didn't approve this stuff because when Joe Biden was with it, he would never have approved it. You take a look. He would have never approved open borders. Go ahead.
Are Republicans still grandstanding in your view?
Oh, yeah, sure. You have a couple who will grandstand, but I think even the grandstanders should. Look, the alternative is a 68% tax increase. And you can blame the Democrats for that.
Again, everything is related to the spending bill. That's what we're looking for.
We have tremendous support. But you'll have a 68% tax increase, or you'll get a massive tax decrease. You'll get a tax cut, the likes of which we've never had before.
Come on, it's as simple. Do you want tax raise or tax cut? Come on. Come on. You all know what you want. It's easy. It's easy.
So this is the biggest tax cut in the history of our country.
Would you rather pay more or pay less? Come on. Come on.
If that happens, I mean, what Republican could vote for that to happen? Because they wouldn't be a Republican much longer. They would be knocked out so fast. But we're going up to details. This is I'm a cheerleader for this party, and I'm a cheerleader for the country. Much more importantly for the country. But I'm a cheerleader for the party.
Thank you, Donald.
And,
all right, so we'll watch out for any headlines. Other than that, here is Josh AI with the news, baby. Good morning.
U.S. stock rally set to pause after 6-day run. A 6-day winning streak that propelled the S&P 500 to the brink of a bull market is set to stall as investors bet that U.S. stocks will lag the rest of the world. S&P 500 contracts retreated 0.2%. By contrast, equity gauges in Europe and Asia advanced. The dollar was little changed. Gold rose 0.3% while Bitcoin dropped. Treasury steadied with the 10-year yield at 4.46%. Japanese notes tumbled after a government bond auction received the lowest demand since 2012, pointing to increasing concerns about investor support as the Bank of Japan dials back its huge debt holdings. And some Wall Street strategists are betting European stocks will enjoy their best performance relative to the U.S. in at least 2 decades as the region's economic outlook improves. While U.S. stocks have rallied in recent weeks, 2 federal officials warned on Monday that they would adopt a wait-and-see approach before lowering interest rates. While European stocks have seen strong inflows this year, the next leg of the region's outperformance will be driven by structural shifts such as higher investments in defense and infrastructure, said Elise Bedoy, Citigroup Inc.'s head of EMEA Equity Research. We continue to recommend diversification into the European market. We're neutral on the U.S., but I think that comes with the perspective that it will be a bumpy ride, Bedoy told Bloomberg TV on Tuesday. With U.S. equities set to retreat at the open, investors are expected to continue taking advantage of pullbacks, said François Rameau, a strategist at La Française Asset Management in Paris. The S&P 500 erased losses of as much as 1.1% on Monday to post a slight gain. The market is now back on a buy-the-dip trend, largely thanks to retail investors who are determined not to miss this boat, Rameau said. The dollar held firm on Tuesday, having extended its losses for the year to nearly 6.5% against a basket of currencies in the previous session. Citigroup Inc. said the greenback could fall further after this week's Group of 7 meeting as global leaders discuss currency policies as part of their trade negotiations with the U.S. The bank's currency strategist, led by Osamu Takashima, wrote in a note that Washington is unlikely to aggressively pursue a weak dollar, but the currency will end up declining as the nation reaches agreements with its trading partners to lower tariffs. U.S. President Donald Trump plans to go to the Capitol later on Tuesday to urge fractious House Republicans to overcome divisions and unite behind his signature tax cut legislation. Moody's ratings stripped the U.S. government of its top credit rating last week, citing a ballooning budget deficit it said showed little sign of narrowing. A slate of senior Fed officials are due to speak at a series of events, including Alberto Musalem, Susan Collins, and Adriana Kugler. Corporate highlights: Home Depot Inc.'s sales came in shy of expectations during the latest quarter, a sign that weakening consumer sentiment and economic turbulence are squeezing spending. Contemporary Amperex Technology Company Limited jumped in its Hong Kong trading debut after the Chinese battery giant wrapped up the world's biggest listing this year. BMW AG plans a buyback program with a volume of as much as 2 billion euros, $2.2 billion. New World Development Company has asked banks to refinance HK dollar 87.5 billion, $11.2 billion of its loans by the end of June, according to people familiar with the matter, as the cash-strapped builder seeks to quickly shore up its liquidity. Pfizer will pay $1.25 billion upfront to license an experimental cancer drug out of China in a deal that underscores multinational drug makers' growing enthusiasm for Chinese biotech innovation. Chinese shipments of Apple Inc.'s iPhone and other mobile devices to the U.S. dived to their lowest levels since 2011 in April. JP Morgan's bull call on Europe. The underperformance of U.S. stocks relative to Europe has been a persistent theme in 2025, even as investor sentiment towards American equities has veered from wildly optimistic to end-of-the-world gloomy to mildly bullish. Even so, this will come as a bit of a shock to some. Targets set by JP Morgan imply that European stocks could outperform the U.S. by a record 25 percentage points this year. That's the key finding in our latest survey of investment bank strategists about the outlook for European equities. U.S. downgrade sounds alarm for Hong Kong funds and treasuries. Hong Kong's pension fund managers have flagged the risk of potential forced selling on their treasury holdings after a downgrade by Moody's ratings of U.S. debt. According to people familiar with the matter, funds operating under the city's $1 $3,166 billion mandatory provident fund system are only allowed to invest over 10% of their assets in treasuries if the U.S. has a AAA or equivalent rating from an approved agency. After last week's cut by Moody's, the only remaining such score is from Japan's Rating and Investment Information Inc. The Hong Kong Investment Funds Association has raised managers' concerns to the Mandatory Provident Fund Schemes Authority, and the Financial Services and the Treasury Bureau said the people asking not to be named because the information is private. The association recommended that authorities make an exception for U.S. Treasuries by allowing funds to invest in the assets even if they are rated one notch below AAA, the people said. Trump plans to rally House Republicans divided on tax cut bill. President Donald Trump plans to go to the Capitol on Tuesday to urge fractious House Republicans to overcome divisions and unite behind his signature tax cut legislation. Despite broad agreement among Republicans on the levy reductions at the core of the package, lawmakers have been mired in conflict over how deeply to cut safety net programs such as Medicaid and food stamps, how quickly to end green energy credits, and how high to increase a limit on deductions for state and local taxes. Party leaders have been frantically negotiating with groups of lawmakers as House Speaker Mike Johnson strives to meet a self-imposed deadline of passing the package through the House before Congress goes on break for Memorial Day at the end of this week. Republican leaders faced an embarrassing setback when a key committee initially rejected the legislation on Friday as hardliners sought deeper cuts but were able to win the panel's approval 2 days later after making concessions to the fiscal conservatives and trade tariffs. Trump's warning to Walmart continues pattern of telling companies to absorb tariffs. NY Times. Retailers may raise global prices to offset Trump tariffs and avoid hurting U.S. sales. Reuters. U.S. duties on Chinese cranes. Charges on China-built chips draw strong pushback from industry insiders. Nikkei. LA Porthead predicts no surge in imports post-tariff truce between the U.S. and China. SCMP. Reuters. U.S. Treasury does not expect trade deal announcements at G7 finance leaders meeting unless aligns with U.S. interests. Reuters. Japan Finance Minister Kato to discuss FX with Treasury Secretary Bessent this week. Bloomberg. Japan's top trade negotiator Ryosei Akazawa maintains demand for U.S. to drop all tariffs. Reuters. Japan considering reviewing tax exemptions for small parcels from China amid scrutiny of duty-free channels. Bloomberg. India discussing multi-tranche trade deal with U.S. Interim agreement expected before July. Bloomberg. Vietnam says it has begun second round of trade talks with U.S. Reuters. China says U.S. undermined trade talks with Huawei chip warning. CNBC warns of countermeasures. Reuters. UK and EU strike landmark deal to lessen trade barriers and boost security cooperation. NY Times. China is enhancing ties with European business leaders, offering access to policymakers amid U.S. tariff pressures. Bloomberg. Washington. Trump planning Capitol visit Tuesday to push Republicans into uniting behind his tax cut legislation. Link Washington Post. House Republicans plan a midweek vote on Trump's tax cuts and spending reductions, facing internal disagreements. WSJ, FTT, no deal on SALT after late-night talks as blue state Republicans plan to continue negotiating with Speaker Johnson. Politico, House GOP leaders want Trump to call off GOP hardliners agitating for deeper Medicaid cuts. Politico, Moody's downgrade hangs over reconciliation legislation, though many Republicans prepared to brush off warning. Politico, central banks, Fed speak continues to stress patience. Some officials see holding pattern continuing until September. Bloomberg, RBA makes dovish rate cut as board weighs considerable uncertainty arising from tariffs. Bloomberg, China reduces loan prime rates as expected. Banks move to reduce deposit rates. Bloomberg, Reuters, BOJ holds market hearings to gauge views on how to proceed with JGB purchase tapering plan. Bloomberg, BOE's chief economist Pill views quarterly pace of rate cuts as too rapid. Bloomberg, BOE's Dhingra says larger rate cut vote was signal on UK economic direction. Reuters, markets investors see no major threat from Moody's downgrade, citing strong earnings yields, Fed model, U.S.-China trade truce. Bloomberg, yields on longer-term treasuries continue to rise as Moody's move threatens good mood on Wall Street. WSJ, dip buying lifted U.S. stocks Monday, but options traders remain wary of big tech's outlook. Bloomberg, longer-term JGB yield surge following weak demand at 20-year bond auction. Bloomberg, major U.S. fund managers rotated out of China tech in Q1. Nikkei, corporate sources say Intel is exploring the sale of networking and edge unit. Reuters, Alphabet investors hope this week's developer conference will help restore confidence in its market dominance. Bloomberg, Chinese shipments of Apple's iPhone and other mobile devices to U.S. plunged to lowest levels since 2011 in April. Bloomberg, Waymo, Alphabet's self-driving unit, received California approval to expand its robo-taxi operations in more areas. Reuters, JP Morgan's Diamond says no changes in succession plans. Investment banking fee will drop. Reuters, Nike downsizing its technology division and letting go of some employees as management resets priorities. Bloomberg, Nippon Steel says it will invest $14 billion in U.S. steel, including $4 billion for new steel mill. FT, Reuters, Pfizer will license experimental cancer treatment from China's 3S Bio for $1.25 billion with potential additional payments. Bloomberg, Tesla supplier cattle surges on first day of trading in Hong Kong. Bloomberg, CNBC, General Motors will cease shipping vehicles to China from the U.S., informing employees and dealers. CNBC, New York Times, DOJ investigating a recent breach at cryptocurrency exchange. Coinbase Global. Bloomberg, U.S. has lifted a stop work order on Equinor's $5 billion Empire Wind project, allowing construction to resume off New York's coast. Reuters, geopolitics, Trump says Russia-Ukraine ceasefire talks will begin immediately following call with Putin. FT, Reuters, European leaders stunned by Trump's deference to Putin during yesterday's phone call. Axios, Bloomberg, UK, France, and Canada threaten concrete actions against Israel, including sanctions. AP, Netanyahu says Israel plans to take over Gaza as airstrikes intensify. FT, Iranian Supreme Leader Khamenei plays down nuclear talks with U.S., says unlikely to succeed. Bloomberg.
And then Elon Musk is actually live on Bloomberg right now.
What does that mean?
What does it mean? I mean, we're going to cut the
life?
deficit.
Because if we
That's all
start
it
with
means.
Tesla,
That's all it means.
the company has suffered in recent months what you've called blowback. So what is your plan?
All right, we'll get to that in a little bit. But yeah, he's talking now. They're at the Qatar thing if you want to watch that. But other than that, S&P futures, they're down by 0.2. Tuesday morning trading comes after U.S. equities finished mostly higher on Monday, reversing an earlier pullback that sent the S&P down more than 1%. Some talk of support from retail investors. Healthcare the standout from a sector perspective, while energy lagged. Treasuries little change after yields finished well off of their highs on Monday. Dollar down by 0.1 after losing 0.7 to start the week. Gold is up by 0.2, and Bitcoin futures off by 0.5, and WTI down by 0.1, and Tesla moving as Elon talks. Very quiet from a headline perspective, nothing particularly incremental on trade following a mixed to somewhat more hawkish batch of headlines in recent days. Fiscal policy continues to get a lot of attention, and House Republicans try to overcome divisions over Medicaid, SALT, and IRA credits ahead of the possible Wednesday vote amid another ramp in deficit scrutiny following the Moody's downgrade. When it comes to monetary policy, Fed speak continues to highlight a central bank on the sidelines amid tariff uncertainty, with the market pricing in 2 cuts this year. China and Australia both cut rates overnight, though the moves were expected. Earnings calendar expected to keep the focus on tariff impacts. On the flow front, corporate buybacks, one of the biggest bullish talking points, while systematic strategies reportedly still re-leveraging, as well as, albeit at a slower pace. Nothing on the U.S. economic calendar this morning. Quiet week overall on the data front, with the highlight expected to be the flash PMIs on Thursday. However, busy again in terms of Fed speak, with Bostic, Barkin, Collins, Musalin, Kugler, Hammock, and Daly all on the schedule. Nothing surprising on the Monday flurry of Fed speak, with officials rehashing the importance of the patience mantra. Fiscal policy in focus, with Trump planning to speak to House Republicans this morning as deep divisions remain over reconciliation bill ahead of the expected vote later this week. Home Depot. Q1 largely in line, sales and U.S. comps and EPS a bit light. Noted it saw continued customer engagement across smaller projects, and in spring events, company reaffirmed full-year guidance. Several of other high-profile retail names report over the next few days, including Lowe's, Target, TJX on Wednesday, BK and Ross on Thursday. Market, not surprisingly, most interested in tariff impact and mitigation strategies. Guidance update and color of health of consumer, with more than 90% of the S&P having now reported. The blended growth stands at 13.6 versus 7.1 expected at the end of the quarter. Uncertainty, the big takeaway from a corporate messaging perspective. Okay. So, other than that, here are our pre-market movers. Good morning. Good morning. And then, Elon, I don't know what he's saying. I don't know if it showed up on the wire, but that's moving things. Elon has already turned around. Europe, weakest market, strong everywhere else. Nice. Very nice. He's still committed to be Tesla's CEO in 5 years' time unless he dies. That's what he says. And then Tesla lost sales on the left but gained on the right. So he's talking now, pumping it at Qatar. But as far as pre-market movers, AS is up by 10 off earnings. CoreWeave up 3.9. I think they just sold off. HPE is up by 3.1. Evercore upgrade. EQ&R up 2.8. Resumes work on Empire Wind after U.S. lift order stop. ESLT up 2.4 off earnings. HD up 2.3 off earnings. Coin up 2.0. Department of Justice opens investigation into recent breach. Bloomberg. LNT is up by 1.3. Jefferies upgrade. Pfizer is up by 1. Exclusive license agreement with 3S Bio. Humana up 1. Qubits up 16. General availability of Advantage 2 quantum computing system. SSL up 10.3, dividend policy change. Pega up 6.7 to join S&P Midcap 400. IBRX up 5.4, Piper Sandler upgrade. Pony up 5.3, earnings. TMC up 4.0, HSC Wainwright initiates buy. PGRE is up 3.3, Evercore upgrade. VSCO up 3.1, limited duration shareholder vote plan. SMR up 1.8, Goldman initiates neutral. QXO up 1.7, plans to double EBITDA at Legacy Beacon organically. TIL is up by 30 off nothing. QIPT up 29. Forger manager submitted non-binding offer for $3.10 a share. XYF up 14 off earnings. LAES up 12, ordinary shares agreement. ASPI's up 9.7, Terra Power agreement. Capper up 3.2, Roth Capital initiates buy. SB up 3.2 off earnings. ALMS up 3, expects merger with Acelerin. Trading lower, VIK down 5 off earnings. TCOM down 4.7 off earnings. RMD down 4.1, further reaction to yesterday's private trial of 80-109. Summit down 3. Cigna down 2.4, reaffirms full-year EPS guide. MDB down 2.1, Loop Capital downgrade. FedEx down 1.8, John A. Smith, COO in U.S. Canada, to serve as the president and CEO of FedEx Freight. HTHT down 1.4 off earnings. SO down 1.1, $1.25 convertible note offering. VIPS down 8.5 off earnings. Yalla down 7.9 off earnings. ASON down 5.2, Morgan Stanley downgrade. MIR, $300 million convertible note offering. RHP down 2 million offering and acquisition. AES down 1.7, Jefferies downgrade. PTLO down 5.9, block trade indeterminate size. TRML down 3.8, top line results of phase 2 tranquility trial. Va Habibi. So that's good. And then you had Trump earlier. He said he's a fiscal hawk. Elon is pumping Tesla right now. And other than that, Chad Adonia, that is some great time right there. So look at that. And now, my friends, you know the time. Good morning. I hope you're feeling good. Happy Tuesday, man. It's only Tuesday. I know, but you know the vibe, baby. Here at the Cult, before we do anything, before we try to chase the dollar, before we try to enrich ourselves, we must pay homage to a very special group of people that has made a sacrifice that most of us never have and ever will. And I am talking about the veterans of the United States of America. So on behalf of the Cult, the people here, the people not here, want to give a huge special shout out, active service, past service, anybody who has served this country, even the families. Thank you for everything. And those of you listening, if you have never served, man, your voice is important. And I hope you know if you have a culture of supporting our troops, man, people will listen. And that's why you hold the job too, to honor and support those who have given everything for our freedom. So I encourage all of you, man, please bring this to real life and show this. This isn't something that we just do. We've done it for half a decade, and it really means a lot. And veterans and all the people who have served, if anybody should be getting a crib, real estate, a long term, let us help, and you should be getting on that. So I hope we could give you some good info. But at the very least, all is one. I hope we could honor those who have fought and given so much for our freedom. So veterans and the families, thank you, thank you, thank you. And big shout out to anybody else out there giving back to their local communities. All the doctors, nurses, teachers, firefighters, police officers, the janitors, the coaches, the garbage men, anybody making their community run. God bless you and thank you, baby. But ladies and gentlemen, please rise up. Place your right hand over your heart. Say it with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all, baby. Second the judge! Oh, it's game time, baby. Or nah, let's go. Oh, Chatadonia. Chatadonia, how do you feel? Are you ready? Oh, we only got 2 minutes? Oh, we got to hurry. I don't know. Will I be able to go in time? I don't know if I can end it in 2 minutes. I only have 2 minutes. Oh, my gosh, the frustration, Riley. So, Chatadonia, it's game time. We got to go. I'll see you in Gen Pop. I hope you had a wonderful morning. Let's make the most of it, and God bless America, baby. And thank you to the veterans. I'll see you there, and peace. We're live.